Our Father who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chamber for the betterment of our fellow citizens. Lead us that we may do all things well. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we call the roll, I'd like to ask everyone for a moment of silence for Mark Brickway, who passed away a couple weeks ago. He was a retired Cincinnati firefighter. He's the brother of retired firefighter Kurt Brickway and the brother-in-law of Auditor Peggy Brickway. Also for Esther Bain, who just passed away. She was the wife of former law director Paul Bain. So if we could have a moment of silence for them. Thank you. At this time, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke,
Present.
Mr. Ray Culberson,
Here.
Mr. Schultmeyer,
Present.
Mr. Bob Culberson,
Here.
Mrs. Bettinghouse,
Here.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Here.
Let the record show that all 7 members are present, no members are absent. Members of council, what is your pleasure on the reading of the last minutes?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to dispense with the reading of the last minutes.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson, to dispense with the reading of the last minutes. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Members of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes as submitted? If not, the minutes will stand as submitted. This time we'll go to reports of city officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The St. Bernard branch of the Hamilton County Public Library will be hosting a free COVID-19 testing site in partnership with the Health Collaborative and UC Health tomorrow, Friday, October 30th, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. The village will be announcing future testing dates. As you're aware, COVID-19 did cause a temporary shutdown of City Hall due to contact exposure. I would like to thank our Safety Service Director, Tom Paul, and our village clerk, Heidi Culberson, for working with the Hamilton County Health Department during this closure, and as we continue to have additional employees affected by this virus. I'm asking that you please keep those who have been affected in your prayers, and that you please take the necessary precautions to prevent spreading or contracting COVID-19. Our management team will be serving a dual capacity as the governor has requested that each municipality establish a COVID defense team. We'll keep you all informed as this evolves. Trick-or-treating in the village of St. Bernard will be held on Saturday, October 31st from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. The purpose of this time change is again to allow for those that are participating to be more visible and to properly distance themselves, as well as those who are passing out candy can take the necessary precautions for safety purposes. The general guidance and recommended best practices, it is strongly recommended that Ohioans exercise caution when deciding to participate in trick-or-treating and events that put them in close contact with people outside their households. Always wear a face covering and stay 6 feet apart from people who are not from your household. Carry hand sanitizer and use it often, especially when coming into contact with frequently touched surfaces or before eating candy. Consider the people in your household who may be at greater risk of complications if COVID-19 is brought into the home, such as those who are with certain health conditions, women who are pregnant, and older family members. Recommendations for parents and guardians: if taking your children trick-or-treating, limit the number of houses that you visit, and ask your children to stay as far away from other trick-or-treaters as possible. For small children, consider holding the bag for them. Wipe off candy wrappers with sanitizing wipes when you arrive home. Note, never wipe unpackaged food with wipes. Allow children to eat only factory wrapped treats. Avoid homemade treats made by strangers. If your child is at greater risk of complications from COVID-19, contact your doctor before allowing them to participate in Halloween activities. Recommendations for community members. Reach out to neighbors to discuss ways to ensure 6-foot social distancing, how candy can most safely be distributed, and the need for face coverings. Refrain from having children select their own treats from a bowl or common container, and potentially set up hand sanitizing stations. Consider placing treats on porch steps or on tables in the driveway. Also, use creative ways to distribute treats, such as a candy slide made of PVC pipe or hanging treats from a wall or fence. Also, update on flu shots for senior citizens in St. Bernard. We will announce a date for flu shots will be offered for senior citizens in St. Bernard once the appropriate dosage becomes available from the supplier. This will be a single-day event offered by Walgreens, and it will be held in Centennial Hall. Tuesday, November 3rd is Election Day, and the polls will open at 6:30 a.m. and run until 7:30 p.m. in the municipal building. Please remember that mask and social distancing are required and that you are required to bring an accepted form of identification. Additional information is available on the Hamilton County Board of Elections website. Just a fun fact, as of today, 933 of the 3,018 voters registered have cast their ballots as of today for early voting or absentee. The senior shuttle will be running on Election Day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for anyone, and yes, I said anyone, who needs transportation to vote. The bus will only be making trips in the village that day. Lastly, I'd like to thank Patrol Officer John Desatel, Nancy Haverkamp from the Matt Haverkamp Foundation, and K-9 Officer Creed and his partner, Officer Alt, for taking the time to make a presentation on forming a K-9 unit for the St. Bernard Police Department. At this time, I'm making the decision that we will not be starting a K-9 unit. I do believe that in the near future, this could be a great addition to our department, but I'm most concerned about adding a patrol officer to give the citizens the necessary road strength. I cannot say enough how impressed I was with Officer Desatel and the community partners who offered to sponsor the program, but I hope that we can come together again to make this a great addition to our department in the future. Please give consideration to donating to the Matt Haverkamp Foundation so that they can continue to provide K-9 partners for police departments. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickwick.
The auditor does not have a report this evening and asked
Gotcha.
that she could prevent from having to speak if possible.
Okay. Is there a report from the Director of Law? All right, then we'll go.
Mr. President, yes,
You've got, okay,
got that covered too.
okay.
ready.
Treasurer, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would you like me to read or do you want to, okay. Just before, of course, last time when we had our scheduled meeting that had to be changed, Valerie had another obligation that she could not get out of, but will be here hopefully as soon as she possibly can. Earlier this week, she met with members of the public and the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee to discuss the substantive terms of the non-discrimination ordinance coming out of that committee. She's also been asked by the committee to look into a possible ordinance regarding Airbnbs within the village. She's also been asked by one council member to look into the steps necessary to amend the charter. And thank you, that concludes her report.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Rungru.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the statement from First State Bank. Our balance for the 4th of July Memorial Fund as of September 30th totaled $5,655.37. In addition, I also pulled down the Star Ohio account as of September 30. The village has $3,816,420.61 in that account. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have found a company to repair the damaged stairs at Lower Ross Park. He explained to me what would have to be done, and I feel confident that this will work. His estimate was $19,550. We should move on this as quick as possible, place it on the agenda for the next CAL meeting. There's a program for financing through a lighting company for the Ross Park poles. The second bidder has underbid the first by $60,000. He included 2 extra poles and lights for the parking area also. The bid is $302,999.50. We should put this on the Committee of the Whole also and speak of financing. We have a bid on cameras for the safety center. We are expecting more. We should also discuss this at the Committee of the Whole. The leafer is available and will be running until December the 1st. You may put your bigger piles of leaves out to the curb and we will vacuum them up for you. Please bag or can your smaller loads of leaves and we will pick them up on your normal trash days. To my community, when we were given the gift of life, only one thing remains certain. We think of life as a tapestry which we need to weave, perhaps a game or a maze. However, you think of your life's journey, sooner or later you will find a need to alter the weave, move differently on the game board, or blocked by another dead end in a world that seems to be going nowhere. Breathe deeply, calm yourself, and smile. Many times you have heard a person say, "I'm at my wit's end." Well, congratulations. You too have made it to wit's end. Seek out your next move and try to remember love is the only way. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Tax Commissioner / Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the monthly receipts for September 2020. Tax collections for September were $1,528,601. Tax refunds for August were $19,822. The village is down 6.6% in tax revenue from September of 2019. The year-to-date tax collection, however, is up 5.24%. I have $69,219 in delinquent tax with capital recovery, and $105,727 in delinquent tax is with our attorney for judgment for garnishment collection work. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Taberky.
Thank you, Mr. President. The village received $23,851.50 from the garbage fee program for September. This brings the total for the first 9 months of the year to $221,200.91. Concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Got the police report for September. There were 2 noise complaints, 6 juvenile complaints, 42 parking complaints, 17 traffic violations, 42 traffic warnings, 5 DUI OVI offenses, 3 cases of theft from vehicles. There were 30 calls of suspicious people or vehicles, and there were a total of 690 incidents that were responded to. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Public improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the last CIC meeting, we had continued discussions about the Long John Silver's property. That is in the process of going through all the different things with the Hamilton County to get the property straightened out and recorded correctly. We will continue discussions about that property at the next CIC meeting, along with the shopping center property. The next CIC meeting will be November 17th at 6 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as was reported from Valerie's report, we did have a laws, contracts, and claims meeting this past Tuesday. We further discussed the ordinance to prohibit unlawful discrimination, and we think we are at a place now where it'll be finalized. So we were planning on having, and talking about having a town hall meeting for citizens so they can understand and we can discuss it further. As well as soon as Valerie completes this, she will put a copy in all of the council staff in their mailboxes so they can start reading it. It's rather lengthy, so we also will have a discussion at the CAL meeting. So more to come on that. There's only tentative for the town hall meeting. So when that gets finalized, the date will be announced. Thanks.
Thank you. Marketing, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like the citizens to know that the newsletter will go out next Friday, November 6th. We are going to start featuring local businesses monthly in the newsletter. For the month of November, we are featuring I Am Coffee, which is owned and operated by Carolyn and Ron Spears Jr. The shop was purchased in 2018 and is in the heart of St. Bernard's Business District on Vine Street. The shop is quaint and cozy, featuring Deeper Roots coffee, lattes, pastries, and breakfast sandwiches. Make sure to stop in if you have not already and meet Ron and Carolyn. You will be able to view the full write-up on their business in the newsletter. If you have not done so, please make sure to subscribe to the monthly newsletter through the village website. In other events and something to look forward to, Recreation is set to hold their Christmas program in December 2020. More info to come on this event. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Business and Industry, Ms. Hausfeld.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole, I believe, has been submitted. Ms. Kathman?
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Clerk, are there any communications this evening?
No, Mr. President.
All right. Then we will move to, could you please give the first reading of ordinance number 28, 2020?
Mr. President,
Mr.
before
Taberky.
we do the first reading, I just checked with Tommy. Bobby asked me the section 2, the 012-0-11 trash collection fee. That should be 012-2-0-18 landfill and composting line item.
What?
Do that, can you do that one more
Here.
time? Oh. And-
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, we will make that change. All right, so that has been correct. Okay, now we will give ordinance 28 its first reading with that change.
Authorizing and directing the auditor to transfer funds and provide additional appropriations and move appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 28, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 28, 2020.
Second, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Taberkey to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance 28, 2020. Are there any remarks? There is no one in the audience, so clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke,
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culverson,
Aye.
Mr. Schulmeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culverson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse,
Aye.
Mrs. Miller,
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld.
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 28, 2020.
Second, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Taberkey to adopt ordinance number 28, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke,
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culverson,
Aye.
Mr. Schulmeyer, Mr. Bob Culverson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse,
Aye.
Mrs. Miller,
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld.
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 28, 2020 is adopted as read. Does anyone on council have anything under old business?
Mr. President,
Mr. Taberkey.
I know Mindy brought up the newsletter. I was wondering if it's possible, before it goes out, can council be given notice when the articles are due? And in the past, the council has always had something in there. And there's nothing from council in there now. Just,
Yeah, we can include everybody.
thank you.
Anyone else under old business? Does anyone have anything under new business?
Mr. President,
Mr. Taberkey.
I'd like to make a motion, we change the November council meeting to November 19th due to Turkey Day.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion by Mr. Taberkey, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to move the November council meeting to November 19th. Are there any remarks?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Housel.
I know I already had told you, but there is a good possibility I will not be here that night. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. And I will remind everyone at the next committee of the whole as well. Does anyone else have anything under new business?
Mr. President,
Mr. Bob Culberson.
I had a question. I don't know if Jonathan, you can answer it, but is Rec doing the Halloween parade they typically do down at the pavilion, where they have the kids down for the Halloween? No.
Mr. President,
Mr. Stuchel.
there's not. It's just, and they actually haven't done, they didn't even do that last year. They haven't done that in some time. They actually used the camp out as the community, actual trick or treating as far as at that event, and not doing the one in the pavilion. So there won't be any of that. And actually, and there will be further updates on Christmas as to what we potentially could do for the holiday program. So that'll be forthcoming, but.
All right, thank you. Anyone else under new business? All right, since there is no one in the audience, the next committee of the whole will be Thursday, November 12th at 7 p.m. This time I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that, Mr.
A
President.
motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, second by Ms. Housefeld to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. We are adjourned.